Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled People Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. How do I get my neighbor to stop texting me? After that, my ex expects me to take his kid to Disneyland. And after that, dear hockey parents, our hotel is not a frat house. Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen drops her phone. I just got the new iPhone. You better leave it alone, Reddit boy. So please smash that like button and subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. How do I get my neighbor to stop texting me? I live in a garden unit and my neighbor that lives above me is driving me nuts. She works from home, so she's constantly around and completely nosy. I like my privacy and solitude and would like to think I'm an overall quiet tenant. I work 10 hours daily and I don't even have a TV. So it drives me up a wall when I'm bombarded with texts about random stuff. She waits until I get home and then let out my dog to go to the bathroom, and I can hear her upstairs going from the front of her apartment to the back where I am to gossip to me and complain about her encounters for the day. She will text me back-to-back messages asking me about work or to complain about other neighbors, whether or not I even reply to her. For perspective, since Thursday, she sent me 41 messages and I only sent 3 responses. All of my responses are very short and direct. I'm not interested in having a conversation or friendship with her at all because quite frankly, she's rude and negative, but I don't want to upset her since she lives above me. I've been living here almost 2 years, her just a month or 2 longer than me, and I've never once complained about her being too loud, although I do hear her daily. There were a few times when she stopped my laundry. She has her own laundry, so she had to walk outside, downstairs, and into my shared laundry room because it was too loud, or brought my garbage back close to my door because she thought I had taken it out on the wrong day. I didn't. How can I go about setting boundaries with her, preferably in a polite way, since me ignoring her didn't seem to be clear enough? It sounds like you've tried going the polite route, but she is either too insensitive or too dense to pick up on it. I'm not saying you need to be mean, but a more direct approach may work better. Tell her to stop talking to you, and don't, for any reason, touch your stuff. Laundry too loud? That's what headphones are for. Garbage out on the wrong day? Tough. It can sit there, and you've chosen to deal with any consequences. Want to gossip with someone? There's a fabulous place for you called Reddit. Show her this post if it helps drive the point home. If she still doesn't get it, act like you don't see her. She starts talking to you, don't respond. If you're walking, just walk past her as she continues to speak to you. If you're sitting and she approaches you, whip out your phone at your earliest convenience and call someone you know that you haven't talked to in a while, or someone that you talk to all the time, or anybody else, really, as long as it isn't her. Completely refuse to acknowledge her existence. I will say that I am normally one to try and have a friendly conversation to resolve issues, but she sounds like that has been tried and didn't work. Take this advice with a grain of salt. Be prepared for retaliation, but stand firm and stay polite as long as she doesn't escalate. Well, what would you do in this situation if you had a neighbor who wouldn't stop texting you? Please let us know. Block her number, bruh. That's what blocking was made for. My ex expects me to take his kid to Disneyland. Alright, so I have a son who's 13 with my ex-husband. We got divorced because he was having an affair and he had a kid with his affair partner. Now he's a single dad because the affair partner left. My son goes over to his house on weekends, and sometimes his kid comes over to my house because my son and him are somewhat friends, but I don't really mind. The problem now is that I'm planning on taking me and my son to Disney, and I've been saving up for this, as I believe he should go there at least once in his life to experience it, as well as him having good grades for the whole semester. I believe that my son must have told his half-brother, as my ex-husband called me and asked me what day I'm planning to leave and am I driving or him. I was confused initially, but I realized what he was talking about and told him that it was just going to be a trip for me and my son. He started to get mad and accused me of favoring my son over his half-sibling and trying to be petty for his past actions and such, and told me I should at least have offered for his son to go too. I told him no, as I wasn't going to pay for another plane ticket and other supplies, and that if his son wanted to go, he needed to pay for himself. I hung up before he could say anything else. Now my son says that his dad was disappointed about my decision and to try to change my mind so his half-sibling could have fun too, and some other remarks. My ex and a few of my friends who heard about the situation say that I'm the jerk for not letting his brother go on the trip as well, and that I'm being selfish and petty. So I'm starting to reconsider everything and just relenting. So I wanted an outside opinion. Am I the jerk? I don't care if your ex did want to pay. You are better than me for even allowing the half-sibling over at your house. You don't owe your ex anything. You don't owe the kid anything other than basic human kindness when you do happen to interact. But he is not your family just because your ex had an affair. Not the jerk. I'm sure your ex manipulated you while you were in a relationship, and he's sure trying to do it now. And if he wants his son to experience Disney, then he can take him himself. You don't owe your son's friend a plane ticket and admission ticket. Not the jerk. And your ex is delusional. The fact that you are kind enough to allow the kid he had with the person he cheated on you with into your home at all, ever, basically speaks to you being an unusually and extraordinarily patient and forgiving person, willing to put your son's happiness above your own. Very reasonable and legitimate hurt. What your ex is asking, though, is beyond obnoxious. He's accusing you of favoring your son over his half-sibling? Well, yes, because that's what sane, reasonable people do. They favor their own kids over kids that they have literally no family or other bonds with. Why on earth would he think that you wouldn't, or shouldn't, favor your son over, again, a kid that you are not in any way related to, who in fact was the product of an affair your own husband had outside of your marriage? Make it make sense. His entire argument that you shouldn't favor your son relies on the idea that you owe his other kid something. But this kid isn't your family, isn't even a niece or a nephew, or the kid of a dear friend or anything else like that. Yes, they're technically your son's half-sibling, but again, that is through the husband who betrayed you. You owe absolutely no allegiance to this kid. Any kindness you show them, even a play date, is lovely, but vacations? No. Any friend who suggests that you are being selfish is no friend at all, and I suspect that there are people in your life who have been taking advantage of you and would like to keep you thinking that this is normal. It isn't. You are not required to sacrifice your heart for people who have hurt you, or their kids, period. Not the jerk. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her ex? Please let us know. Sounds like X must be out of his mind. Dear hockey parents, our hotel is not a frat house. I swear, when you work in hospitality or customer service in general, you have enough stories to write a book. I've had this hotel job for 5.5 months, and I already could write half a chapter. Anyways, when sports teams are traveling, specifically hockey teams, they tend to test every last bit of patience each of the staff here have. They think since they aren't at home that they can act as they please. They're almost always disrespectful to other hotel guests and the staff, not caring how loud or messy they are. They literally treat the hotel like a college party or a club. A few weeks ago, I had my worst encounter with a hockey team. So I got to the hotel around 10:55 p.m. on a Friday night. I normally work NA shifts first part of the week. I was covering for a coworker, so I'm not normally used to weekend nights. I was aware that we were fully booked this weekend for multiple hockey teams. I could feel the headache coming on before even starting my shift. And go figure, the moment I step into the hotel lobby, absolute chaos. I was greeted with a group of kids jumping up and down our main stairwell in the lobby, running everywhere, screaming, like it's 12 p.m. out at a playground. But no, it's 11 p.m. in a hotel. Our hotel is over 40 years old, so a lot of the structure is built with wood, so it's more creaky and noisy in general. So the kids' jumping sounds were amplified times 10. I also had a kid who kept screaming on and on because her sibling locked her out of the room. That woke up an entire hallway of guests. This absolutely made our basement guests and other guests call to complain about noise. So I dealt with 4 noise complaints by 11:10 p.m. Already a great start to my shift. After telling the kids to stop running and screaming, I had to tell them like literally 5 times before there was somewhat quiet. I had to deal with some other kids, the adults. They were all in the breakfast room, which is about 12 feet away from the front desk, so I could hear everything. We even had the double doors closed, but the noise was still leaking out. And boom, more noise complaints came through before 11:30 p.m. All the adults were drinking in the breakfast room, scream-talking and laughing, oblivious to the fact that there are other guests trying to sleep, considering it's almost 12 a.m. I told the parents they had to quiet down, otherwise I'd have to contact police due to multiple noise complaints. Finally, they quiet down. Still had to clean up their spills and bottles. The last thing that really upset me and made me realize the parents really don't care what the kids do outside their own house as how they left the hotel before sleeping. By 1 a.m., all the kids and parents were in their rooms. Hotel was quiet and peaceful, finally. I soon realized I had to go on a scavenger hunt for cereal the kids took from the breakfast room and scattered throughout the hotel. We have 3 floors, and I kid you not, I found crushed Fruit Loops and chips in these areas. Every hallway and stairwell, the fitness room, the hot tub spa room, the lobby, business room, breakfast room, and public washroom. Like seriously? Come on, people, this is still a public building. Treat it with respect and tell your kids to behave. I told my GM about all of it, and she warned the parents that were in charge that if they're the same next time, they'll be banned from coming back to our property. If you're a hockey parent, please don't treat or let your kids treat the hotel like it's a frat house, because I guarantee you're upsetting the staff. Just because you're away from home doesn't justify acting like a drunk college student. Am I the jerk for bringing up my son's ex while his new fiance was over for dinner? I, 42 female, have a son, male, who's 42. I had my son, Dean, at 18, and I'm very attached to him because my parents kicked me out and my ex walked out, so I raised him all by myself. About 1 year ago, Dean met a girl, Hannah, while at a bar. She seemed nice when I met her, but Dean had just broken up with another girl, Emma, 3 weeks prior. Emma and Dean had been dating since they were seniors in high school, and I was so excited when Dean proposed about 4 weeks prior to meeting Hannah. The problem arose when Emma found out she was unable to have kids. Dean has always told me how much he wanted to have kids. He always wanted to be there for them because he didn't get to have a father. Once Dean found out about Emma not being able to have kids, he broke up with her. I was so upset because I didn't understand why he couldn't just adopt or hire a surrogate to have kids instead. Fast forward to 3 weeks later, and he meets Hannah at a bar. Like I said, she seemed nice, but I was still upset about him breaking it off with Emma. Last week, he proposed to Hannah, and she said yes. I was happy for him. The problem here is when we were talking at the dinner table and the topic of having kids came up, not by me. I asked Hannah about how many kids she wanted, and she told me that she couldn't stand kids and never wants to have them. I looked at Dean, thinking this may shock him, but he didn't look shocked at all. Here's where I may be the jerk. I asked my son, in front of Hannah, why he proposed to a girl that doesn't want to have kids, but broke up an engagement with a girl that he dated for 6 years because she was incapable of having kids. Dean's eyes got wide, and he started turning red with embarrassment. Hannah was shocked and said something along the lines of, "Since when were you engaged?" That's when I remembered that Dean told me to never bring up his engagement with Emma because he was scared of how Hannah would react. Hannah left the table. I asked him the question again, and he said that he was going to change Hannah's mind. I told him that Hannah was older than him and had had so much more time to think about the topic, and she was most likely dead set on the idea of not wanting to have kids. I really wished I could have just kept my mouth shut. Dean then stormed off after Hannah. So, am I the jerk? Reads title. Oh, this is definitely you're the jerk scenario. Reads post. Nope, it's an everyone sucks here in disguise. OP, you don't seem to like how fast Dean is moving or like this new girl better than his ex-girlfriend. But that doesn't give you the right to divulge this, especially when he told you not to bring up his ex in front of her. Your son also sucks because he believes he can change her mind about having kids, and he dumped his previous fiancée for something she couldn't control. I absolutely agree, everyone sucks here. But somehow, OP is a hero for Hannah for all the wrong reasons. OP probably spared Hannah a huge hassle and a lot of manipulation to try and get her to want to have kids. But yeah, the reasons OP snitched were not to protect Hannah, so she's still the jerk. OP. Just to be clear, I actually liked Hannah and had no malicious intent of breaking them up. I was just angry that my son knew that she didn't want to have kids, which I was fine with the fact that she didn't want to have them, but thought he could change her mind. And I talked to Emma the day after the breakup, and she told me that he ended things with her because of her issue with not being able to have kids. I think I shouldn't have said anything in front of Hannah, but people assuming that I wanted to break them up is wrong. Going against the grain to say, not the jerk. You saw the writing on the wall and called it, saving both of them a lot of time and heartache. Am I the jerk for telling my daughter that she wasn't welcome in my life unless she acts right? I, 49 female, have one son who's 26 male and one chosen daughter, 25 female. When I was younger, I had a best friend. I'll call her E. E was a fun but very unreliable person. We had always spoken about having kids at the same time, so when I got pregnant, so did she. The first 5 years went great. We were still incredibly close as you can be as new parents. But when her boyfriend passed, her life and mental health were wrecked. E's family isn't in her life, so when E found a new life meaning, every month or so, she often left her daughter, G, with me. At first, it was just weeks at a time, but as G became a teenager, it became permanent. I always loved G. I'd always wanted a daughter. I eventually cut off E. I just couldn't have someone who treats her kid the way that she did in my life anymore. But G has always been family, and I've always told her that I see her as much as my child as my son. In the past 2 years, E has gotten her crap together and has reached out to G to reconnect. G is ecstatic about it and wants to invite her to every family event we host. I told her no, that E was not welcome at any event that I was hosting or attending, that I was happy they were reconnecting, but under no circumstances did I want to have contact with her. G has resented me for this, and we fight more than we ever have. Our latest fight became very heated, and after both said some regrettable things, G told me she never saw me as a mother, and me trying to keep E out of her life wasn't going to change that. I know I'm not her mom, but it really stung to hear that. I told her I would not be treated like this, and she was not welcome in my home or life while acting like this. She started crying and stormed out. Later, she texted me a bunch of more hurtful things and pointed out I would never kick my son out no matter what we fight about, and so much for loving me like him. I really feel bad now. My son is very close with G, so he wants us to make up, but I feel like kicking her out was still the right choice. So am I the jerk? Edit. Thank you for all the responses. Just to clarify info that's being asked. 1. The hurtful things I said leading up was me talking badly about her mother and bringing up past mistakes. It was not okay and something I do regret. 2. I don't know if I would kick out my son. I don't think I would because he could never tell me I wasn't his mom, but you are all right. It's still not okay. 3. When I wrote events I was hosting or attending, I meant holidays, Christmas, my son's wedding, Thanksgiving, etc., or things my family, parents, siblings, nieces, etc. hosted. If G were to host an event, I wouldn't make her choose between who to invite, but I would probably avoid E as much as she would avoid me. Edit 2. Probably my last edit for a while. I appreciate all the responses, even the harsh ones. I will reach out to her and try to resolve this. One last info update. G does not live with me, but she lives close, and we are a tight-knit family, so we all eat dinner together several times a week. I did not kick her out of her home, but I did kick her out of coming back to her childhood home. Probably gonna get downvoted, but not the jerk. And honestly, I don't understand all the people saying you're the jerk. It's not like you're preventing G from rekindling her relationship with E. It's in your right to not want E in your life, therefore not having her at family events. G is 25, an adult now, and it's time to learn about consequences of her actions. She tells you she never saw you as her mother. Well then, out of the house. She can either go stay with who she considers her mother or get a job and be independent. I don't understand the you're the jerks either. After what E did to her and OP, I don't know why G wants to have her cake and eat it too. G complained that OP lied about loving both of her kids equally, but she's not treating her mother figures with the same level of respect. You'd think at 25, G would have grown some empathy for the person who raised her. I do say this knowing that G probably has some really intense abandonment issues. I don't think that she should expect OP to cater to E's whims because of it. Am I the jerk for clearly telling my parents how family functions hosted by me will go from now on? I'm currently expecting my first kid with my husband, and this is a discussion I had with my parents recently. I'm 27, female. There is a background to this first though. My mom has been married twice. First time, she was married for 9 years and had my 3 half-siblings with husband number 1. He passed and my mom met my dad. My half-siblings have not changed how they felt about my dad from the first day they met him to now. He was always unwanted, always made to be the outsider. He never pushed to be dad or to be called anything. Even they will say that to people. But they simply did not want someone else married to their mom and were not willing to be a family with random people after their dad passed. To them, their childhood family ended with the passing of their dad. My mom and dad had me and my brother, who's 29 now, and we both knew we were not important to our half-siblings. We knew they did not acknowledge us as siblings even. and we could see that they never cared about us or our dad. It hurt a lot as a kid. I didn't get why they were so against the idea of us being siblings, or why they didn't even want to be friends with my dad. We were never invited to their weddings or to their baby showers, and they would show up at family functions and ignore us if they knew enough people there. Otherwise, they were no-shows. This has led me to want to focus more on my husband's family for my kid. They are good, kind people. They're better people than I ever expected to have in my life, and I feel like they will be the people there for my kid, who will build my child and any future children up. So I am no longer going to attend functions where my half-siblings will be present, but more than that, they will not get any invite to anything hosted by my husband and I. I know my parents want to pretend like things are okay and nobody's bothered by this stuff with my half-siblings. They want to believe therapy when my half-siblings were kids and loving them is enough, but it's not. And I told them I would not put my kid into the mix of rejection by people who are supposed to be family, that I did not want my kid to be othered before they're even born simply because they are born to me. So I had decided to no longer include them, the half-siblings. My parents were very upset by this, so my grandma, Mom's mom, and aunts, Linda and Jane, Mom's sisters, told me that I was being a jerk for no reason, that everyone else accepted this is just the way things are and are willing to deal with it for the people they love. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. Your kid, your family, your decisions to not have toxic people in your life. Be that awesome parent you want to be, and don't waste 1 ounce of any emotion over those who don't give 2 hoots about you or your immediate family. Stand firm and protect what you love. I'm wondering if the half-siblings even care about this decision. It sounds like they'll probably be okay with it. The only people who are upset are 2 people who sound like they can't function unless everyone else is getting along, or pretending to get along. That's not your problem. They can waste as much time as they want with whoever they want, but you are under no obligation to waste yours with people who clearly don't care about you. Not the jerk. Aunt tries to steal family heirloom. Thinks she deserves an apology for being called out. My aunt is, to put it nicely, a complete piece of work. She isn't overly well-liked in my family. However, my grandparents, especially my grandmother, believe that they can't exclude her from family events based purely on their personal feelings for her. My aunt is an extremely shallow and materialistic individual. She's tried to get my grandpa to sell property that's been in the family for 100 years, so the money could be split between my uncles and my dad. This story, however, involves a very old pocket watch, and I don't know the details, but the watch is Swiss and very old. It's gold with platinum inlay and extremely valuable. Now, this watch has been passed down from father to son for a long time. It's going to be passed down to my dad and eventually me. My aunt hates this. She's tried to convince my grandpa to give it to my uncle, second oldest, and for my dad to just say my uncle should have it. Neither have agreed to that. It all came to a head on Saturday. We were at my grandparents' house for a birthday celebration. Everything is going well. People are having pleasant conversations. My daughter, who is 5, this is relevant, and younger cousins are having fun playing and somehow not causing more noise than should be humanly possible. It's been a wonderful day until my aunt goes to leave. She's saying her goodbyes, everything is good, and then my daughter pipes up and says, "Don't forget to put back the watch, Auntie S." I look at my daughter and ask, "What watch?" And she says, "The fancy gold one." My grandpa walks to his study and comes back out, asking if she had taken the watch. My uncle looks at my aunt and says she didn't. To cut a long story short, she's made to hand over her handbag, and lo and behold, the watch is inside. Everyone is furious. My uncle can't believe what she's done, and my grandpa wants her out of the house. This would all be bad enough, but to make this even worse, she calls me that night and tries to scold me for raising a daughter who was a snoop. She had seen my aunt while running around and playing, and that I needed to do a better job as a parent. I just laughed and said she's hardly one to talk and hung up on her. I'm not surprised she tried to steal the item, but even I'm surprised that she tried to make it my fault she's been shunned by the family. Am I the jerk for not telling my dad about money saved by my mom and her family? My mom passed when my brother and I were really young. My brother is 20 now, and I'm 18 and just moved into a friend's house. Dad got married to Lisa and helped raise her 3 kids, and they had 2 on their own. One of Lisa's kids has a lot of complex medical issues and 5 years ago was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer. Between the medical conditions her kid has and then the cancer, money was extremely tight. My brother and I had an uncle who would send us money for food and stuff for the two of us, but my dad's family weren't able to help as much, and Lisa's mom is in a nursing facility, so she couldn't help. My brother and I were told by our uncle a few years ago that there was a savings account set up for both of us and that it was money for us to go to college or buy homes with, and we'd have access to it in the future. He made us aware of the money sooner in case we ever needed it. The account started with my mom and was the earnings she made from a family business she was part of. Then when my grandparents sold their business before they passed, our mom's share was divided between my brother and me. Then our inheritance from them was added. My dad learned about the money when my brother could afford a car and to move off campus and into a house that was pretty big for 3 college kids. He asked, and my brother told him that he had some savings. He asked me about it directly, and I told him we had some money from our mom. I didn't tell him how much, but I figured he had a good guess because he went off. He said that money could have helped him when Lisa's kid was fighting cancer and we needed money. He told me things were dire on more than one occasion, and they were getting food from charities because they didn't have the money to pay. He asked how could we have been so selfish, and did we realize how much we could have helped out? He said we could have told him about the money and he could have used some of it to keep us all afloat and safe, and maybe have cured his stepkid's cancer. It all came down to me being selfish. Gotta ask if he's right, because I do feel kinda bad about lying to my dad. It was just, my brother and I were taken care of by our uncle, and it felt wrong to use my mom and grandparents' money to pay for stuff for my dad's new family. My parents were in the process of divorcing when my mom passed, and her family didn't get along with my dad. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. Your mom left that money to you. It was not a bank account for the whole family. Yeah, it's tough that they had to get financial help, but that's not your fault nor responsibility. Honestly, the father is the one being selfish here. Why is he putting the guilt on them? Why isn't he grateful his kids don't have to scrape by and struggle? It was not first wife's job to fund his second family, and his kids shouldn't feel guilty for experiencing the love legacy she left for them. Besides, he probably also had an inheritance from her, and he no doubt used it as he saw fit. I'm curious how much time, attention, and money he gave his kids after starting family number 2. I have a feeling very little. Hotel guest overreacts, resulting in him being charged $1,000 extra. A few evenings ago, a guest wrapped in a pool towel came to the front desk and tossed his keys on it, informing me that they aren't working. I apologize, remake the keys, and send him up. He comes back downstairs, tosses the keys back on the desk, and says that it still isn't working. He tells me a yellow light is coming up, and when this happens, it means that the card reader on the door needs to be reprogrammed, which takes 20 minutes. This happens very rarely, and we always make it up to the guest. I inform the guest of this and tell him that my maintenance guy left 20 minutes ago, but I will have him back to fix it right away. As I call the maintenance guy, the guy starts huffing very heavily while staring at me with his eyes wide open. I inform him that our maintenance guy will be here in 20 minutes. I said I'm comping his breakfast from yesterday, then tell him that if he wants, he can head back out to the jacuzzi and we'll send him some drinks on us as well while he waits. Him: I will not do that. My girlfriend is upstairs waiting for the door to open in my suite that I paid to use. Me: I apologize for that, sir. As I mentioned, my maintenance guy will be here in 20 minutes, so if you can bear with me until then, we'll get you into your room. I don't want to go into my room in 20 minutes. I want to go into the room that I am paying $400 a night for right now. Me: Sir, this is completely our fault, but you must understand that sometimes things out of our control can happen. It'll just be 20 minutes until he gets here, and we will, of course, make this up to you. Him: I'm paying $400 a night to stay here. I want to go to my room now, not in 20 minutes. Me: I understand that, but like I said, there's a problem with your card reader on the door that only our maintenance guy can fix. I want you to get into your room, but we can't until our engineer gets here. So, you're not going to let me into my room? I want you in your room. It just physically can't happen because of the problem with the key reader. So you're not going to allow me into my room that I pay $400 a night for? This goes back and forth and continued on for a few more minutes. Me: Sir, you need to lower your voice. I admit that this is our fault, but that doesn't mean you can scream. I will not lower my voice. You're not allowing me to go into my room. I'm allowing you to go into your room. You just can't because of the card reader. So you're not letting me into my room? I let you go into your room. I'm perfectly fine with you going in your room. But I can't. Yes, because your card reader is not working. He then asked if he could go into another room while he waits. But at this point, I was done with him and his crap and refused to help him. I told him no. I then told him that this conversation is finished and he has to wait. A few minutes later, I felt a burst of wind from outside and felt bad that his girlfriend might have been cold because of his stupidity. I make keys for a room next to theirs and give it to him so she can go inside. He takes the keys. His girlfriend refuses to go into the new room with him. He gets in, then slams the door shut, leaving her outside. Once engineering starts working on his door, he hears the guy talking in the room. Later, the engineer told me that the dude was on the phone with his mom complaining about the hotel. We got his room ready. I went to tell him, and in front of me, he's still repeating, "Mom, I'm spending $400 a night here, and they're not letting me into my room." Anyway, I guess him and his girlfriend fought because 2 hours later, she leaves the hotel with her bags. He then walks in and out of the lobby a few times for a few more hours while walking slowly and staring at me wide-eyed. Everything he does angrily. Pushed open the front doors hard, slammed on the elevator buttons, etc. Every time he closed his room door on the 4th floor, a guest would call, asking what the noise was because of how hard he was slamming it. Suddenly, at around 9 p.m., I hear a loud slamming sound over and over again. I get like 10 calls from scared guests. Turns out, this dude was just in his doorway, opening and slamming his door shut over and over again. I call him and tell him that if he slams a door one more time, he's getting kicked out of our hotel. Well, he slammed it repeatedly again. He came downstairs around 9:30 p.m. to check out as I was calling security to kick him out. While I was in front of him, I got a call from a guest asking what the sound was. In front of him, I told him that it was an out-of-control guest, but not to worry because he's getting kicked out of the hotel. I handed him his receipt, which he crumpled up and threw on the floor before walking out. The next day, housekeeping reports that the door frame is shattered. Per the general manager, we charged him $1,000 for the broken door frame. I also added the comped breakfast back onto the bill. Best part, 2 weeks later, I saw a 1-star review from him stating, "They wouldn't let me into my suite that I was paying $400 a night for. Ruined my anniversary. Would not recommend."
Support our channel by joining as a member today, and we'll give you a shout out in our next video.
Or come watch this video next. You won't believe what Karen does in that one.